Hey, what is up, parents, teachers, therapists, or anybody who's interested in supporting kids with executive function challenges? What's up? My name is Seth with SethPerler.com, ExecutiveFunctionSummit.com, and the Executive Function Lab. And I'm going to break down, we're talking about procrastination and motivation, how to help a kid who's unmotivated, how to motivate them, how to help them if they're procrastinating, things like that. I'm going to break this down into what procrastination is, why we procrastinate, and how to motivate a kid who is struggling with a lot of procrastination. So, first thing I want to mention is very simply, let's keep this really simple. If we break this down, it's going to help us to understand it so that we can better help the kids that we want to help. So, what do we procrastinate on? Essentially, what we are talking about, or what parents come to me about, is procrastination on schoolwork or responsibilities, which might be chores or doing a job application or a college application or something like that. Schoolwork or responsibilities. That's it. Okay, let's keep it really simple. Almost everything can be put into those two categories with what I hear about. Number two, we can even put those two categories, schoolwork and responsibilities, into one bigger umbrella category of non-preferred tasks. Non-preferred tasks, things we don't feel like doing, things we don't want to do. Okay, so we procrastinate or are not motivated to do things we don't want to do that are not preferred. Very simple. Now, let's break down why we procrastinate. So we're going to look at the Latin here. So if we look at the procrastinus, and sorry if my Latin is not correct, but pro and crastinus. So it basically means to defer till the morning. That's the literal translation of procrastinate, to defer till the morning. But pro means forward, to move something forward to the next day, let's say. And crastinus means tomorrow. Okay, so to move forward till tomorrow. Now, if we look at the word motivate and look at the root, the Latin root of motive, we can look at that word as causing movement. So if we're motivated, something has caused movement, has caused us to move. So we're motivated to do something. So why do we procrastinate? No good motive. There's no good motive. It's a non-preferred task. It's very simple. And if it's a non-preferred task, it's often perceived as it's not fun, it's not engaging. Maybe the child doesn't like the teacher, feels like the teacher doesn't like the child, or likes the teacher but doesn't like the work, or likes the work but doesn't like the subject, or likes the subject but... So what's going on? There's always something deeper going on, but either way, it's not preferred. It doesn't feel good. And what I really want to talk about when we talk about what we're not motivated to do and why we procrastinate on anything, you and I as adults or the kids with their schoolwork and responsibilities, it's that the experience of the thing is unpleasant, or we are afraid that the experience of the thing will be unpleasant, because as we all know, as adults, we've learned that the things that thought were so daunting and so overwhelming often are not nearly as bad as our head will make it up to be. We can make mountains out of molehills a lot. Either way, if we want to help a kid, we have to understand the experience that they're going through. And why that's important is because of the can't and the won't and the shame and the moral issue of this, which I will get into momentarily. So let's move on then. So now we know why we procrastinate. The experience of the thing is unpleasant, or perceived that it's going to be unpleasant. There's no good motive, okay? So that's number one, the why. Now, how? How are we going to motivate kids? How are we going to motivate them? First of all, I think that the term motivate, or to motivate somebody, or motivational speaker, or things like this, these are very misleading, loaded terms. And I never talk to my kids, my students, like that and say, you need to motivate yourself. Get motivated. Let's get motivated. I never. Why? Because it does not help. And often their association with that does not help and can cause them to feel shame. Okay? That does not help anything. I'm trying to support them, not make them feel bad. So I don't have that conversation. How do we motivate you? Let's get motivated. Just motivate yourself. I don't ever have that conversation with kids. Just an FYI. So I'm going to give you 8 tiny tips in terms of how I motivate kids. Number one, my goal is not to motivate them. In my mind, my goal... Okay, let's look at what I said before with why we procrastinate, because the experience is unpleasant. So my goal is not to motivate them, it is to give them an experience of success. So if we're working on an English paper, if we're working on a planner, if we're working on a backpack and reorganizing stuff, if we're working on emailing a teacher, if we're working on math, it doesn't matter. My goal is to give them an experience of success. When I'm done working with a student, I want them to walk away feeling successful, feeling good about themselves. And how often do these kids who are unmotivated walk away feeling not successful and not good about themselves and not good about what was going on? So that's the real goal. I just want to really pound that home there. The goal is to give them an experience of success. So if we can change our goal to that, I think that helps a lot. Number 2 out of 8 is I look at it through the emotional regulation lens. I'm going to give you 2 lenses. So the first one is the emotional regulation lens. And we as adults have to be really patient with kids. They're having, as we are, but emotional experiences. And oftentimes the procrastination, the resistance to doing the non-preferred thing, is emotional. It feels bad, meaning that they're having a physical experience of, this is uncomfortable. I don't want to. So we have to, if we can, as adults, learn about the nervous system, if you're not familiar with it, and dive into that and learn about how the body's responding, then we can have a much different dialogue with our kids. So the reason that they are not doing the thing and that it's so overwhelming to them is that they're partially because there is an emotional experience happening, and we need to listen to them and hear them and hold space for them and see them and help them feel understood. Now, the other lens, this is number 3, is the neurodivergence lens, which is, again, there's a reason this is overwhelming. The way their brain is, quote, wired, they are struggling to do whatever the task is, and we need to listen. And I don't mean necessarily listen to what they're saying, but watch them, really understand what is going on in their brain. How does the brain process and think, and how is their brain experiencing this, whatever we're trying to help them do? Okay, so that neurodivergence lens and the ER lens, the emotional regulation lens, then really helps to not go to that shame place. And the shame has everything to do with the can't and the won't. Okay, so when these kids are misunderstood, the main misunderstanding that Seth talks about in my work is the can't and the won't. The biggest misunderstanding adults have about these kids is the can't and the won't. We think that it's a won't when it's a can't. They just won't do it. They just won't try. They just need to work harder. They just need to apply themselves. They won't apply themselves. They won't motivate themselves. They won't stop procrastinating. All of these frames make it sound like a won't. They just won't. They're just being willful, defiant. These sorts of frames. Well, what if it's a can't? And they can't. They don't have the executive function skill sets, the emotional regulation in the moment. They're not understood. Their neurodivergence is not understood. What if it's a can't? So that is what we're doing here. We are trying to really see where they can't, the legitimacy of it. That way we can help them. Okay, number 4, relate. I want to relate to them, connect with them, see them, help them feel heard. So, like, I'm not just going to, you need to get this thing done. We need to connect. This is a human being here. And so often adults are so in their head about what needs to get done and the pressure that they feel that they then put the pressure on the kids. So the relating, connecting. Okay. That's number 4. Number 5, depressurize, like depressurizing an airplane cabin or something. Okay. Depressurize, take the pressure off. Like these kids, so much pressure on them. Like really put yourself in their shoes. I try to really understand, what must this feel like? Where are the pressures coming from for this kid? How can we alleviate that? Because being under pressure and trying to help them is not usually very helpful. Next is to make it fun. So number 6 is fun, light. Like, why can't this be fun? So if we're trying to help them, help motivate them, make it fun, be fun. Be a fun person to be around. It's not that hard for us to do. I mean, we often have our stories in our own minds that we have to sort of break through to get to that point as adults, to be able to let go and have fun with them. But that's where it's at. Number 7, to motivate them. When I'm working with kids who are struggling with any of the things I mentioned before, baby steps are everything. Okay. Again, I want them to have an experience of success. So the baby steps, where are they at? Scaffolding. If you're not familiar with scaffolding, the educational term, you can look into that as well. That's a very helpful term, but essentially scaffolding, baby steps. I'm going to take them from where they're at, move them a little bit more. And make it a fun, successful experience. Move it more, move it more, move it more. So what I do is I walk them through a process. I'm not trying to convince them. Definitely not trying to shame them and be like, you need to try harder. I'm trying to assume that they can't and walk them through the process until they can. Bit by bit by bit. Baby steps are everything. Number 7, baby steps are everything. And finally, number 8. Number 8's the same as number 1. Again, the goal is a successful experience. I want to help them have a successful experience with whatever I'm trying to support them with. That's the goal. So anyhow, hope that helped you. Maybe you took some notes on that, and hopefully that can motivate you with some good ideas to support the kids that you care about. Again, my name is Seth Perler with SethPerler.com. If you like what I'm doing, please share my work with other people. You can leave a comment below. What do you do to motivate your kids? What came up as I was talking for you that you could share with us to help us help the kids we care about? And feel free to leave a like. That supports my channel and stuff like that. And yeah, that's it. Take care, be well, and thank you for supporting kids.